You took 6 months to put it together? Well, plot twist, your lease is ending soon again, and they jacked up the prices by 2x in classic New York City fashion. Well, now it is time to move and take everything apart once again. Hello friends of the internet, welcome to the end of an era. I am finally moving out of my very first New York City apartment and also my first ever apartment as a fully functioning adult out of college, which is kind of scary to think about. If you never saw my OG New York City apartment makeover video, I'll link it in the description down below or in the info card above my head somewhere in this imaginary space.
Guys, being a YouTuber is so strange. We literally just spend our days sitting in our apartments and pointing to imaginary spaces and talking to ourselves in our rooms.
You can see how I put together the very apartment that I will tear down today, 4.5 years later. Continue watching for tips into how to un-makeover your apartment as I declutter, resell, pack and organize, and repair and restore my New York City apartment. And I'll throw in some tips on how to keep as much of your security deposit as possible and to avoid getting charged. Oh, and how rude of me to not introduce myself. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. My name is Kathy, and I am yet another, yes, another 26-year-old YouTuber living in New York City. I'm also a corporate girly and a competitive athlete. I moved to New York City and this apartment as a 22-year-old bright-eyed young college grad. And now I'm leaving as a jaded 26-year-old going through a quarter-life crisis. Only half joking about that last part. If you're new and unfamiliar with the lore, you may know that I first moved to New York City in 2020 when I graduated, which is during the pandemic, which felt like eons ago, which is crazy. Nobody was trying to move to New York City at that time, but my first roommate, Michelle, and I really just wanted to start off our independent adult lives, even if that meant just being quarantined by ourselves in our apartment. And rent was so cheap back then. I was paying 1.5K back then, and on the absolute grand scale of things, 1.5K is actually a large sum of money, but not for New York City rent for sure. We got lucky and happened to move into a rent stabilized apartment till recently. They informed us that rent stabilization is apparently ending at my current building. So the era of cheap rent has officially ended, and that is why me and my current roommate are planning to move out. Not gonna lie, moving is a really stressful process. But when I pause and think about it, it does feel sad and nostalgic. I personally feel like I get attached to physical spaces really easily just because of all the memories and emotions and all the life that has just happened in a given space in a given time. So I find it sometimes hard to let go of a space that I've created and called home for so long. I think 4.5 years and a big chunk of most of my early 20s is a good amount of time, and I think it's finally time to move on. I want to start this video exactly the opposite of my New York City apartment makeover video that I did 4 years ago. So here's a tour of what my apartment looks 4 years later with all the decorations still in place before we start tearing the place down. Welcome to the lobby, foyer, whatever this is. This basically has not changed except I have just accumulated more shoes than I can fit, and I won gold volleyball with one of my league teams in New York City for placing first, so that's a cherished memory for sure. That's my roommate's bedroom and bathroom. Here's the kitchen. I'm surprised the contact paper marble counters on the kitchen held up for 4 years, and we did get a new fridge because the old one was so old it actually broke.
I just want to stop.
The living and dining area has not changed except funny story. I had 2 benches for this dining table and both broke because the quality was high-key so bad. So now we just have a table awkwardly here. I may or may not have acquired a couple more houseplants over the years.
I just want to.
Bedroom and bathroom also have not changed much. I pretty much just accumulated more shit over time.
I just want to stop. A great big place.
And oh, I did add extra storage with this 4-cube organizer that was originally not there.
I just want to stop. A great big place. Down in your heart.
Hello guys, Welcome to my closet area. Step one in the un-makeover process of this apartment is to declutter and sell or donate or get rid of stuff. We all probably heard of that Marie Kondo book by now and the principle of get rid of everything that does not make you happy. And unfortunately for me, that is very hard to do. As a child of an immigrant, we hoard everything from plastic paper bags to napkins we get from restaurants for free. Over the last couple years, I have learned to get better at letting go of random things. I tend to accumulate so much stuff. Someone would literally write me a note and I'm like, oh my God, this is so kind. I will keep it forever and it will stay there. And over the course of 4 years, I have accumulated a lot of crap. I am going to now do an entire spring cleaning of my closet and my apartment. I do have a couple of tips before we jump in that I want you guys to know. Decluttering is one of the first things that you can do when you're thinking about moving. It makes your life a whole lot easier, trust me, if you start this process months in advance. I would say at least 3 months in advance, because depending on how busy your life is, and mine is incredibly busy, this will take you a lot more time than you actually think. If you do want to resell your items and your valuables for at least some amount of money back for what you paid for, it's a pretty long process actually. I typically like to make 4 piles. You can use anything from just reusable, recyclable bags to kind of sort these, or if you have empty suitcases laying around, those are also great vehicles when it comes to moving. 4 piles. The first pile is essentially donation for anything apparel, old home decor, anything that no longer has really any substantial resale value, but still may bring joy and happiness to some other person out there that is no longer you. Depending on where you live, there may be multiple donation sites. I live in New York City and there's a Goodwill in the Flatiron Chelsea area, so I went and dropped off all my donation items there all in one go. Then I have my pile that I call the resell to marketplace pile. Surprise, surprise, old farts like me still use Facebook. But honestly, I mostly just use Facebook for Facebook Marketplace because it is actually kind of helpful. Facebook Marketplace is one of the few platforms that I'm familiar with where you can basically sell anything as long as it's not illegal. Old tech, old clothing, old furniture. I would say Marketplace is probably one of the best places for furniture pickup. Marketplace is the category where I put everything that I need to sell, not just clothing, into this pile. And then my third pile is what I call my selling to resellers pile. This is mostly apparel and accessories focused. If you're an avid fashion consumer, you most likely have shopped at a thrift store before because you can actually find some pretty good stuff. So we're talking the Crossroads, the Buffalo Exchanges of the world type of vibe. The only thing I would caution you with is the only things I would put in this pile are things that are very trendy at this moment, or else you're going to get rejected. If you're not familiar and never sold anything to like a Buffalo Exchange or Crossroads or anything like that, they are really strict. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I took my stuff there. I never felt more unfashionable and judged in my life, to be honest. They really just buy off of the season's trends. They don't really take anything. So a lot of my stuff actually ended up going to Goodwill. So I do want you to keep that in mind. You can't just dump everything at a Buffalo Exchange or Crossroads because they will not take it. And usually to sell to them, you actually have to make an appointment, and usually you have to wait in line because they take your stuff and they review each item and they either approve or reject. And literally 95% of my stuff was rejected. So don't get your hopes up too high. And also you only get like a slight sliver of what they will actually sell the piece of clothing. In my opinion, it's not really worth it, but if you have some really trendy stuff, feel free to put it in that pile. In addition to some of these physical retail spaces, you can also definitely resell your clothing on an online platform like Depop. I've used Depop before. It's pretty easy, but it does take like a lot of work, and I'm not sure if it's worth it for the amount that you're able to get. Usually with Depop, people buy from all over the place. It's not like Marketplace where you can just pick up locally. Depop is a little bit more focused on like shipping. You would have to prepay for a shipping label, and that also eats into the cost. Depop also takes a percentage off of what your listing price is. I will say my stuff on Depop definitely sold, and it was a good platform for selling. I'm just not sure that if you're a busy person, if the time and effort is worth the investment. So just keep that in mind. And the last pile is just garbage. Stuff that even if I donated, people would not get value out of. With that said, let's go dive into this shithole of a closet behind me and see what we find.
At this point, this closet is so filled with crap that someone could put like the ashes of my ancestors there and I wouldn't even be able to tell.
I feel like whenever I clean shit, I always get distracted by these random side quests. I'll find something I haven't seen or haven't unearthed from the depths of my closet in like 2 years, and I start like looking through things and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I forgot I even had this. And I'll proceed to keep it, and it will probably never see the light of days in the next 3 years. As Marie Kondo once said, to truly cherish the things that are important to you, you must first discard those that have outlived their purpose. With this move, I actually try to challenge myself to be more okay with letting things go. Even if something holds memories or once served purpose or value to your life may no longer serve purpose and value to your life. If I donate it or give it to someone else, that very item may serve a much greater purpose to someone else out there that is no longer serving the same purpose for me. Well, except if it's a note from your secret crush in like the 6th grade, and in that case, I would say that may very well much be better in the trash. So let me hit you with some tips for packing. The cheapest place by far to get cardboard boxes in New York City is Home Depot. If you're not close to the Home Depot, then the second cheapest option is finding a local storage unit. They usually have boxes for cheaper as well. Please, please, please do not get your boxes from like a UPS and a FedEx. I literally almost fainted when they told me a cardboard box was like $30. When packing, ideally you want to put related items into one box, like a living room box or a bedroom box. But the reality of things is that sometimes to optimize for space, you may not be able to put all related items into one box. Pro tip, do not skip this. Do not be lazy on this. It'd be worth it. You want to write down the contents of every single box you pack with a Sharpie, or if it's a reusable box, use a sticky note or something to log everything you put inside that box. Within 24 hours, you will not remember which box you put that one lamp you needed. Tips on box sizes. So for your less fragile items, you can use big boxes because you can stack more stuff and it won't get destroyed. So all of my soft things like clothing are in like a huge box. However, for more fragile items, I would recommend smaller boxes because 1, you can transport them more carefully, and 2, there's less movement and space or opportunity for it to break. Also, pro tip, save some of your winter sweaters or coats or jackets or things that are large and soft, or blankets even, that you can pack around your fragile items to secure them. And always start out with sturdier items at the bottom and then put all of your fragile things at the very top. Also, mark your fragile boxes as fragile so that your movers, or if you're doing it yourselves, you will also know which boxes to transport more carefully when you have taped and sealed them. I specifically ran to Target to get some plastic sealable boxes in case something spills. The last thing you need is a soggy cardboard box to transport. I always like to pack anything that is perishable or liquid or any bathroom items in a plastic box instead of a cardboard box. Alrighty, welcome to my kitchen, but just 4 years later. This is the exact same camera angle that I did in my apartment makeover video, so this is such a nostalgic throwback. I actually don't think I filmed from this angle really for any of my videos in the past 4 years, so back on the tabletop we go. Ooh, okay. Am I in frame? I think I'm in frame. Alright, so we are going to be un-makeovering the kitchen. If you guys watched my makeover video for my apartment 4 years ago, these tabletops were ugly as heck and I didn't like them and wanted to replace them with like white marble contact paper. Other than that, I didn't do anything crazy to the kitchen. A little scared because this contact paper has been on for like 4 years and I'm surprised it lasts. Of course, there's some like minor scratches and stains and whatnot, but for the most part, it still looks pretty nice. Biggest fear is that when I take it off, the counters will be super sticky. So it's really crazy to think that the last time I was sitting up here, I was literally like a child and I was just kind of introduced to the world and the city of New York. What a different perspective to have in the same place. Other than that, I just have some like minor hooks that I will take off the wall. Hopefully it doesn't rip any paint off. If it does, I'll just repaint it, no big deal. Let's get going with un-makeovering my kitchen, and I will figure out how to safely get down from it and not injure myself, because if you watch some of my other videos, you know that I injure myself very easily. I'm like a fragile 70-year-old grandma. This is a little precarious. I should not be doing this. Ooh, okay, there we go, okay. Whew. We're going to tackle removing this contact paper, and I think I'm going to use the blow drying method. So essentially, because there's adhesive behind the contact paper, I've read recommendations of people using like a blow dryer to like gently melt the glue underneath and then ripping it off. I'm a little scared, honestly, to see what the countertop looks like after 4 years of sticking this on. So essentially I tried the blow dry method and it kind of didn't really make a difference. So I stopped doing that and just transitioned to brute force and sacrificing my nails. Many hours later, the paper was all removed, but now we have a new dilemma. The counter is so goddamn sticky. I tried this goop remover thing that I bought from Amazon and used that in combination with some rags and hot water combined with a super vigorous arm day. I was finally able to restore the counters back to the ugly shade it once was. If you're a decor hoe like me, there's no way you can leave any apartment without generating any holes. Okay, that kind of sounded a little more weird than I thought it was going to be. Instead of just leaving them and hoping that your building does not deduct a wildly large sum of money from your security deposit, let me show you how you can repair them easily with much less this. So let's go on a Home Depot run. I'm looking for 4 things: a cheap paintbrush, paint, drywall fill, and something called a sanding sponge. I ended up getting the drywall mix off of Amazon, so I can link it in the description down below if you guys want. Trust me, I am not sponsored by a drywall mix brand. That would be crazy. Tips on buying paint. Paint is usually sold in large quantities in these huge ass buckets. However, you can always get a paint sample, which usually comes in a small pint like this. So quick tip, without knowing the exact shade and finish and color, you will almost certainly not be able to match the shade that is on your current walls. Ask your building or maintenance what paint color they use. Ask for the paint name, the color, and the finish, and usually you can probably find it at Home Depot. Okay, so let's start fixing some holes so I can show you what I mean. Because I was a 22-year-old idiot when I moved to this apartment, I really wanted to install a floating vanity drawer. So I installed this beautiful floating drawer thing, but unfortunately it left 3 gaping huge holes in my wall. So how I repaired them is, first I took the drywall mix and essentially filled them to the brim. You always want to use more drywall mix than less, because when it dries, if you don't use enough, the hole would kind of like go in because of gravity, and the liquid of the drywall mix will still look like you kind of have a dent or crater in your wall, which doesn't look cute at all. So you actually want to use more than you need, so when it dries, there's almost like a bump on the outside of the hole. So that's what the sanding sponge is for. So once I let it dry for 24 hours and it's dry to the touch, I'm gonna go in with my sanding sponge, and then you're just going in and smoothing it out. If you do it right, it will be perfectly leveled and beautiful. Sometimes, because of gravity, you will still have a dent, and what I would do, which is what I did in this case, is go in with round 2 and fill it again, and this time it should be much easier now that it's not a gaping hole, just a little crater. And then you wait another 24 hours, and then I'll go in with the sanding. After I sand, I just put on a little layer of paint, and voila, your holes are gone. Is there a more intense way of doing this? Probably yes. So if you're a master repair person, no judgment please. I'm just making this video on tips for the average Joe like me. 1, 2, 3, 4. I am taking down my gallery walls that I have for forever and forever. A lot of the paintings and drawings in my bedroom I did myself, but a lot of these were sourced from local ethnic artists, including this one, and the other one that I have in my kitchen. So I'm so sad that I will be taking all of this down today because I have an inspection tomorrow, which is why I am filling all of the holes in my apartment. You do not want to give your apartment any reason to start eating into your security deposit. They will literally charge for everything and anything, even if it's a little hole in the wall that you just had like a little nail in, and it's just so easy and cheap to just like cover it yourself. So sad. I like literally do not want to get rid of this. Okay, so this may or may not be advisable, but there is one large nail that I need to pull out. And typically what people would recommend is pliers if you have pliers, but since I do not have pliers, tweezers surprisingly actually work. I've been tweezing a lot of them out. So just be careful with it. Tweezers obviously don't have as much leverage. There we go. Big boy is out. Nice and easy actually. Let's talk movers and finding a moving company. I know this may look differently for everyone. Not everyone may need movers. I know a lot of my guy friends just like ring up their buddies and they're like, all right, that is the moving team. Unfortunately, that is not the case for me and my noodly arm. I would say movers were important to me because I have a lot of chronic issues with my back from being a competitive athlete and figure skater. So there's a lot of heavy things that I unfortunately do not want to risk my body to lift. If you guys just follow me on a life level, you may know that I moved literally like a couple of days before I had to leave for my biggest competition of the year, nationals. I was quite frankly very stressed, and I realized I do need to recruit help and spend money in an area where I feel like it will significantly increase the value of my physical and mental health. That's how I decided on getting movers, but how I found my movers was in a very interesting way. I would say the best way to find movers personally for me is through word of mouth. The movers I went with were actually not part of like an official large company. My roommate actually found this mover through word of mouth. They're a really small kind of service, but they offered really great prices and good services. So my roommate had a great experience with them, so I just ended up going with them. That was also less pain in the butt for me to do further research. But I will say I reached out to a couple, and generally speaking, how the process works is you always have to request a quote. So depending on how far the distance of your new apartment is, and also how much crap you have, the price will be different. Every single moving company is going to ask you for this. What I did is I created a list of all the items I have itemized. So that does not mean you write down every single thing you own. It's more like I have 3 cardboard boxes, 2 suitcases, and 6 pieces of furniture. I just kept that in a note stock and copy and pasted it every time I requested a quote from a moving company. Also, it's helpful to have pictures, so I would take pictures of all of my big furniture pieces and how big my boxes were. That was also very helpful to get quick quotes from moving companies. a loss for words. I don't even know what to say. Today is the last day that I will be in this apartment. So March 31st, 2000 and, what year is it? Oh my God, 2025. I feel like I'm living in the Matrix right now. Anyways, it feels so weird to be in this empty space. As you can see around me, my apartment is completely cleared out. Still weirdly feels like home. Like I stepped into the hallway and my first instinct was to check if my face looked okay in the mirror that is in the hallway, and I realized there is no longer a mirror. Close off this video by just saying and sharing my thanks and gratitude to this space and all the roommates that have shared this space with me and all the memories we made together over the last 4 or 5 years of moving to New York. As you guys know, I moved here literally straight out of college. This was my first adult apartment, which is crazy. So this place will definitely always have a special place in my heart, and I have experienced so much growth here, so much pain, so much sadness, but also so much joy and happiness, full spectrum of emotions. I just want to give time and space for closure. So I just want to thank all my roommates, Michelle, Emma, Ethan, and Irene. Thank you for sharing all of this space with me. There are so many things that I've experienced in this apartment. Like literally this window right here. I literally remembered when I first started my job, my first roommate, Michelle, and I worked at the same place, and we both hated our jobs so much that one day we just were like, we need to let this out. And this was also granted during the pandemic, and we had nowhere to go. We were all stuck at home and we're just completely depressed. And we opened the window, this window right here, and we both, on a count of 3, yelled out to the void of New York that we hated our jobs, and we said basically F you, insert company name. I will always have love and gratitude for this space, but it is time to officially move on. Thank you so much for coming along this whole apartment un-makeover journey of returning my apartment back to the way it was that you saw in my original apartment makeover video about 4 or 5 years ago at this point. So excited. Look out in the next couple of weeks for my new New York City apartment makeover. I'm so excited to share this new space with you guys and this pretty much new era of my journey as a New York City resident, I suppose. I can't wait for all the new memories that I will share with you guys in my new space. If you like more videos like this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I don't know why I did that. I want you guys to feel supported and have something to go to while you're going through a huge life milestone shift like moving out of an apartment or just moving in general. Moving in general can be an incredibly stressful time. I hope this video was helpful and also just therapeutic maybe if you're also going through the thick of moving. All right, this is the end of an era of my very first adult apartment in New York City. It's time to say goodbye, and I'll see you guys in a new place soon.
Every night I try to love, but your heart is made of stone. All my tears, they fall like rain, yet you leave me here alone. I give you all I have inside.